Captain Hyderak's voice crackled through the command nexus, his frilled crest pulsing with impatience on the primary holofeed. My queen, the human's threshold is secured. We demand the envoy's return in your divine name. No resistance detected, yet. Queen Valera's taloned fingers tightened on the arms of her throne, the obsidian facets gleaming under the barge's vaulted lumens. Below her command dais, the High Council murmured, their scales whispering like dry leaves. The wounded girl, Lyria, last scion of a fallen envoy line, was Illithian blood, bound by hereditary reclamation to her sovereign's grace. No off-world scavenger, no matter how persistent, would hoard her. Invoke the Edict of Divine Custody, Valera commanded, her voice a silken blade. Secure the child unharmed, the human will yield, or face imperial judgment. Hyderak's cohort advanced, lances humming, their armored forms encircling the human's prefab shelter on the fringe world's dust-choked plain. The door groaned open, and there he stood. Daniel Reed, the human interloper, broad-shouldered and dust-streaked, cradling the limp form of Lyria in his arms. Her envoy silks were torn, her gill frills slack, iridescent blood seeping from a gash across her torso. The feed captured it all in merciless clarity. Lyria's life monitor implant flickering erratically, vitals plummeting. Stand down, Reed said evenly, his standard tongue filtering through the translator without deference or fear. He shifted the girl higher, one hand pressing a makeshift compress to her wound, fabric torn from his own tunic, laced with some pungent human herb. Moving her now kills her. Hyderak's lance tip rose. You presume to dictate terms to the Queen's grace? Surrender her. Valera leaned forward, her multifaceted eyes narrowing at the display. The human's audacity rippled through the council chamber like a seismic wave. Consul Hyrax, her conservative shadow, hissed from his alcove. Abomination. He defiles sacred blood with barbaric paws. Authorize seizure. Majesty, let the lances purify this insult. But Reed did not yield. Instead, he knelt in the dust, laying Lyria on a crate with deliberate care. His free hand danced over her neck, fingers probing the implant's shattered housing, a nexus of neural filaments and power cells that no untrained claw should touch. Valera's breath caught as the feed zoomed. He pried open the casing with a shard of metal, eyes flicking between the girl's paling face and the exposed circuits. Improvised, filthy rags staunching the bleed, a jury-rigged probe from his belt tool snaking into the port. He murmured something low, rhythmic, as if coaxing a reluctant engine. The girl's monitor stabilized. A faint pulse returned, gill frills twitching. Reed's voice cut through. Transmitting field data. Verify yourselves. Data streamed into Valera's nexus, vitals logged, implant telemetry. Human hands had bridged a severed filament, rerouted power through auxiliary veins, even synthesized a coagulant from ambient flora. Surgical precision married to technical heresy. No Illithian field medic bridged implants mid-crisis without a sterile bay. Pause the seizure, the Lyra ordered, her crest flaring involuntarily. Hyderak froze mid-advance, lances dipping. The council erupted. Hyrax foremost, his spines rigid. Majesty, he toys with divine flesh. Silence. The Lyra's gaze locked on the feed, Reed now multitasking. One hand monitoring the girl's pulse, the other signaling Hyderak's troops to stand back while he calibrated the implant stabilizer. Endurance in his posture. No tremor after hours in the field, she noted from the timestamps. Adaptability that bordered on the uncanny. Liaison Kethra. Embed with the captain. Verify his interventions. If the data holds, we claim no corpse. Kethra's acknowledgement chimed, her shuttle detaching from the barge even as Valera rose. Protocol cracked at the edges. Propriety demanded force, yet pragmatism whispered of the girl's survival. Lyria breathed because of this human. Valera dispatched a private med unit to her command barge, overriding Hyrak's protests. No force extraction. Authorize his transport of the envoy to the capital under guard. We inspect aboard the barge. Sanctioned proximity, not plunder. The Nexus feed shifted as Hyrak stormed the dais, his faction trailing like agitated drones. This is abduction masked as aid. Ground reports confirm. The human seized her from the crash site, hoarding her against reclamation. Punitive action now, or the conservative houses declare motion for retrieval by blade. Valera's tail lashed once, the chamber falling silent under her shadow. The holofeed showed Reed bundling Lariah into a sling, his eyes scanning the Ilithian cordon, not defiant, but assessing as if plotting convoy routes already. Kethra's voice patched in. Verification complete, Majesty. Implant integrity restored. 97%. His technique, unorthodox but functional. Beyond our field protocols. Hyrax thrust a datapad forward. Ground faction chatter scrolling. Accusations of theft. Calls for lancefire. The people demand justice. Enforce the ancient law. Retrieve by any means. Belira's spines aligned in regal arcs, her voice resonating like struck crystal. Vetoed. Instant retrieval risks the envoy's life, and our legitimacy with it. She activated the override channel, broadcasting to all feeds. Hear the Queen's conditional truce. Daniel Reed, you will escort the wounded to the capital under Imperial Guard. Adjudication awaits at my barge. Defy, and the guns awaken. Comply, and protocol shields you both. Reed looked up at Hyrax's hovering shuttle pickup, nodding once. Understood. Let's move. The council recoiled, Hyrax's mandibles clacking in outrage, but Velira held her ground, the barge's engines thrumming as it pivoted toward the rendezvous vector. Proximity sanctioned, not seized. The human skills gnawed at her certainties, a paramedic by his own claim, yet wielding tools like a shadow operative. Humble in bearing, lethal in quiet competence. Hyrax leaned close, voice a venomous coil. You court chaos, Majesty. This off-worlder undermines succession norms. The houses watch. Let them, Velira replied, eyes on the feed where Reed multitasked the sling load, briefing Kethra on post-op care, patterns in his words connecting biology to circuitry that even her medics wrote memorized. Duty demands the living heir, not a martyr's pyre. And this human. As the convoy formed, human at the fore, Ilithian lances flanking, Velira felt the first fracture in her supremacy's facade. Not fear, but intrigue, a partnership forged in dust and data, where alien strength met human ingenuity. The guns remained cold, delayed by a queen's calculated grace. Kethra's final relay hummed. He's adapting our guard protocols already, Majesty, suggesting route optimizations. Shall I allow it? Vairara cut in, a rare warmth threading her tone. We learned from this. The barge descended, bay doors yawning for the improbable escort. Lyria's vitals held steady, a testament pulsing across the nexus. Hyrax seethed in the shadows, but Velira's resolve armored her, strength unbroken, now laced with possibility. The human stepped aboard under guard, girl in arms, his gaze meeting hers through the viewport. No bow, but respect in the nod. Protocol bent, not broken. The Empire would endure this anomaly, or evolve. Minister Voss's crest flared crimson as he thrust the holopad forward, its projections flickering like dying stars across the obsidian council table. Your Majesty, the shore state blockades strangle our trade veins. Without extended docking rights, the routes collapse within cycles. 50% of our hyperlane tonnage lost, famine in the outer holds. The Lyra's throne loomed at the chamber's apex, its filigreed arms coiling like vigilant serpents. She leaned forward, her multifaceted eyes narrowing on the data streams, the weight of the Empire's pulse thrumming in her temples. The barge's return had barely registered. Reed and the child, a fragile Ilithian girl named Lyria, her vitals now stabilizing in the medbay, had been escorted straight from the landing cradle to this vaulted sanctum. Guards flanked the human at the table's edge, his plain tunic smeared with residue from the outpost's chaos, yet his posture held steady, no quiver in those blunt-fingered hands. Speak the remedy, Voss, Velira commanded, her voice a silken blade slicing through the murmurs of the High Council. Protocol demanded she dismiss the outsider's presence, but the girl's survival, Reed's impossible stabilization of her failing physiology, lingered like an uninvited echo. She would not fracture focus now. The shore states demand linkage, Voss replied, his tail lashing once. Docking concessions tied to diplomatic exchange. They name it equity. Our ships in their ports, their envoy in ours. Refusal invites total embargo. Consul Hyrax stirred from his shadowed dais, scales gleaming under the lumen veils. A ploy, Majesty. They scent weakness in our fringes. Invoke the interdiction edicts. Crush the upstarts before they fester. Velira's gaze flicked to Reed, who had not spoken, his eyes tracing the holopad's archival feeds with unnatural intent. The human's face, weathered yet unlined, betrayed no fatigue despite the ordeal. Hours of improvised surgery on alien flesh, then the guarded transit. Others would have collapsed into a heap. He merely adjusted his stance, fingers dancing over a subsidiary pain. "Human," she said, the title clipped but devoid of prior venom. "You audit our tongues in the outposts. Do these clauses bind us to surrender?" Reed met her stare without flinching, his nod precise. "Not entirely, Your Majesty. May I?" At her fractional incline, he pulled the holopad closer, ignoring the guard's subtle shift. His voice carried the cadence of one accustomed to triage under fire, calm, layered. "The Shore State Charter, Subclause 47B. Exchange denotes parity of station, not sovereignty. Archival cross-reference to the Veil Accords, paragraph 9. Nominal consortia suffice for ratification, revocable post-term." The counselors leaned in, crests twitching. Voss blinked, his data quills pausing mid-scrawl. "Those texts are encrypted strata, layers deep. Even our jurists. I've cross-mapped them." Reed continued, projecting a neural web of glowing threads. Patterns bloomed, treaties from forgotten eras, clauses twisting like vines. "Your systems layer redundancy for stability, admirable, like biological failsafes. But humans, we pattern match across silos. Link this amendment. Accept guest consort status for the human envoy. Me, if it serves. Duration bound to treaty enforcement. No sovereignty yield. Docking rights flow immediately, with audit clauses for parity. Revocable at first breach. Hyrax frills inverted to slate gray. Preposterous. A mammalian upstart deciphers our sacred vaults? The Lyra silenced him with a raised talon, drawing the holopad to her throne's nexus. Reed's amendment scrolled before her, elegant, unyielding, threading the needle between concession and command. No bombast, just precision. His mind had unraveled centuries of legal labyrinth in minutes, while Ilithians toiled in rote simulation for days. She felt the stirrings of unease, not contempt. This was no brute improvisation, but insight born of, what? Fields of blood and machinery, he had hinted once. Her legal staff exchanged glances, their quills hovering. "Jurists," she ordered, voice steady as bedrock, "model the effects. Full cascade, economic flux, sovereignty metrics, reversion triggers, report in the cycle." Murmurs rippled. Voss's crest flared admiration. Hyrax's jaws clenched, but none dared protest. The Lyra's pulse quickened beneath her regal facade. Reflex urged dismissal of the alien's audacity, yet pragmatism held. The roots teetered. This human's weave preserved her throne's sinews without fracture. The modeling concluded in a haze of projections, green cascades dominating red. Voss bowed low. "Viable, Majesty. Trade stabilizes at 92% capacity. No legal hemorrhage." Valira's talon etched her seal into the nexus, the order blooming imperial gold. Ratified. "Daniel Reed, you are named guest consort for the treaty's span. Binding presence for docking enforcement. Prepare for public accompaniment in the capital spires tomorrow. The Empire witnesses this necessity." Reed inclined his head, the gesture carrying weight without subservience. "Honored to serve, Your Majesty, for the roots, and the girl, Lyraya." The name tugged at Velira's core. Protocol be damned, the child lived because of him. A crack in the formality, personal now. Hyrax exploded from his seat, tail slamming the dais. "Blasphemy! Interdiction Statute 12th Veil. No off-world flesh shall consort imperial station without right of blood oath or scaffold purge. This ape mocks our lineage. Exile him to the void fringes, or the council fractures." The chamber tensed, guards' pikes humming to life. Hyrax's eyes burned, his conservative web spinning unrest. Leverage for his marriage ploys. His whispers of Valira's weakened line. She saw it plain. Displace her. Crown a puppet consort of pure Ilithian stock. Valira rose, her silhouette eclipsing the lumen veils, voice thundering with emergency prerogative. "The throne invokes Apex Decree 1A. Crisis overrides statute. Trade collapse invites invasion. This alliance preserves the sovereignty. Reed binds to court under imperial aegis, protected as kinblood till term's end. Challenge further Hyrax, and face sequestration." Hyrax recoiled, frills collapsing, but his glare lingered on Reed, dismissal curdling to wary calculation. Voss exhaled, crest softening to azure respect. The other counselors bowed, the motion sealed. As guards escorted Reed toward the consort wing, flanked but unbound, Valira watched him go. No triumph in his stride, just quiet readiness. He had juggled their arcane law like a field medic's triage kit, spotting threads her jurists grazed blindly, endurance in his unbowed frame, adaptability in his seamless pivot from savior to strategist. Her mind raced. Humans layered such feats as commonplace. The galaxy whispered of their fragility. Yet here, one rewove her empire's noose into a lifeline. In the antechamber's hush, a junior aide approached, data slate trembling. Majesty, shore state confirmation pings inbound. Docking fleets pivot already. Valira nodded, the weight easing fractionally. Protocol cracked, yes, but strength endured, now tempered with alliance. Pyrax slunk to shadows, plotting no doubt, yet the roots breathed. Reed's quarters awaited. The public gaze tomorrow. A human tied to palace by treaty. She bound him to court, scaffold denied. Possibility laced the air sharp as a blade's edge. Reed paused at the archway, turning back. Their eyes met, hers probing, his steady. If Lyria wakes, Majesty, she'll need voices familiar. Permission to sit vigil? The request pierced propriety's veil. Valira inclined her head. Granted. Report her progress at dawn. He nodded. Respect mutual now. Unspoken. The doors sealed, but the fracture widened, empire evolving, one improbable consort at a time. Lord Hyrax stepped forward amid the throng of the grand procession, his crest flared in calculated defiance, voice booming over the crystal chimes. Majesty, behold Lord Kael'th of the Vorin clans, kinsman of purest Illithian blood, come to affirm the throne's unyielding lineage. The crowd's murmurs swelled like a gathering storm, eyes flicking to Daniel Reed at Valira's side, the human's plain tunic a stark insult amid the jeweled regalia. Valira's mandibles tightened beneath her veil, the weight of 10,000 gazes pressing against her resolve. Hyrax's gambit was transparent. Parade this rival suitor before the court, bait the human's exclusion, fracture the fragile accord she'd forged in secrecy. She inclined her head fractionally, voice steady as forged alloy. Lord Kael'th, your presence honors the sovereignty. We shall weigh all claims in due counsel. Reed stood silent beside her, posture relaxed yet alert, his gaze sweeping the avenue's shadowed alcoves without a trace of the unease she half expected. The procession surged onward, banners snapping in the wind that carried scents of incense and oiled machinery. Valira's guards flanked the royal dais, their armor humming with restraint fields, while aerial drones traced lazy arcs overhead. Kael'th fell into step behind, his entourage a ripple of conservative nobles whispering of tainted alliances. Hyrax lingered nearby, his satisfaction palpable in the subtle twitch of his secondary limbs. Then Reed moved. It was subtle. A shift in his stride, hand dipping toward his belt, as if adjusting a clasp. Valira's peripheral sensors caught the anomaly first. A faint harmonic distortion rippling from the pavement beneath the forward guard contingent, invisible to the naked eye but threading through the air like a predator's whisper. Anti-personnel sigil planted. Active. Her pulse quickened, but before she could signal, Reed knelt fluidly amid the march, palm pressing flat against the stone. No panic, no flourish, just precise motion. A low chime emanated from his wrist device, interfacing with the sigil's field in a cascade of override pulses. The distortion winked out, the pavement's glow fading to inert gray. He rose seamlessly, rejoining her side as if he'd merely tied a bootlace, murmuring under his breath. Clear now. Gasps rippled through the procession. Guards froze, scanners whirring to life. A noble's cry pierced the air. Treachery, the stones. They armed. The Lyra's mind raced, cataloging the near catastrophe. 20 guards vaporized, the royal line exposed. Hyrax's faction emboldened, yet Reed had seen it, anticipated it, neutralized it with tools no Illithian operative carried so casually. Fortune? No, precision, but aloud. She raised her voice, calm as glacial ice. The gods' vigilance shields us this day, a flaw in the avenue's wards, nothing more. Procession resumes, Hyrax's crest deflated fractionally, eyes narrowing on Reed, but he bowed with feigned grace. Indeed, Majesty. Divine fortune favors the pure. Kael'th's entourage exchanged uneasy glances, the scandal he'd provoked now overshadowed by this quiet intervention. The crowd cheered dutifully, drones broadcasting her words across the empire. But Valira felt the undercurrent, questions blooming like fissures in marble. She kept Reed close as they ascended the palace steps, a personal detail doubling without command. Internal reservation coiled tight. Praise him publicly, and Hyrax would cry favoritism. Ignore him, and the court would whisper of weakness. This human unraveled threats with paramedics' calm and engineers' cunning, feats her analysts deemed improbable for a primitive guest, yet to admit it aloud invited chaos. In the antechamber's shadowed hush, away from prying hollows, Valira turned to him. "You will remain under my direct observation henceforth." Her tone brooked no debate, but her gaze lingered, probing the unassuming lines of his face. Reed met her eyes evenly, no demand for credit. "Understood, Majesty, just keeping the peace." She summoned her chamberlain with a gesture. "Bestow the sigil of measured valor upon the human consort. By my hand alone." The chamberlain hesitated. A flicker of protocol's fracture, then complied, presenting the etched amulet on a velvet cushion. Valira took it, her claws precise as she fastened it around Reed's neck herself. The metal warmed to his skin, narrowing the ceremonial gulf between them by a single, deliberate inch. "For vigilance unseen," she murmured, voice low enough for only him. His fingers brushed hers briefly in acceptance, a human gesture of quiet alliance that stirred unwelcome curiosity in her core. Hyrax would see that the honor, but privately conferred, it bound Reed tighter to her without fueling the pyre. The council chamber doors hissed open as the procession's echoes faded. Intelligence Chief Lyra swept in, her data veil pulsing with urgency. "Majesty, border probes confirmed. The neighboring Thalor Concordance fleet, 3 cruisers, edge of the Veil Nebula, transmitting manifestos decrying Iolithium instability from alien consorts. They cite the humans' presence as pretext for reclamation claims on the outer rims." Valira's throne creaked under her grip, the weight of empire pressing anew. Hyrax whispers had reached the stars already, weaponized by external foes. The sigil's sabotage suddenly aligned. Internal rot-feeding border fangs. Deploy Shadow Wing 3. Cloaked escort. Mirror their probes without engagement. Relay my decree. Any incursion meets the full sovereignty lance. Lyra nodded, tendrils flickering affirmation. And the human? Confine him to palace quarters pending diplomacy. No excursions. Valira's gaze flicked to Reed, already retreating under guard. He inclined his head, compliant yet unbowed, as if reading the political calculus without resentment. Pragmatism demanded it. His skills tempted exploitation, but exposure invited escalation. As the chamber emptied, Valira lingered, mandibles clicking softly in contemplation. Fortune. She'd called it publicly, but the amulet's glow on his chest mocked the lie. Hyrax plotted with suitors and sigils, borders bristled with opportunistic fleets. Reed disarmed both with infuriating normalcy, pattern spotting a hidden kill web amid celebration, overriding it mid-stride like recalibrating a faulty med unit. Her analysts would dissect the logs later, marveling at the improvisation. No Ilithian rig matched his field's jury-rigged spectrum, yet doubt lingered. Was this human's competence a fluke of his resilient breed, or a deliberate edge? She'd watched primitives in archives, enduring sieges, bonding packs across voids, but this one multitasked crisis with courtesy intact, endurance without fatigue, adaptability cloaked in humility. Her empire prized rigid hierarchies. He bent them without breaking. A soft chime. Lyra's update. Shadow Wing away. Thalor fleet holding pattern. Valira rose, veil settling like armor. The procession had been a proving ground. The device halted, but its maker's worth remained her guarded secret. Hyrax would press harder now. Kelth, a specter at her flank. Reed, confined yet honored, waited in shadows. Empire's improbable fulcrum, teetering toward evolution or fracture. In her private sanctum later, Valira reviewed the sigil's autopsy hollow, planted by Vorin agents, Hyrax's allies. Reed's override had not only neutralized it but logged its quantum signature for tracing. Data her shadows now chased. She traced the amulet's echo on her console, a concession to protocol's crack. "Remain vigilant," she transmitted to his quarters. His reply pinged back, "Always, Majesty." The fracture widened, one measured step at a time. Consul Hyrax rose from his dais, his frilled crest flaring like a blade unsheathed, voice slicing through the vaulted chamber. "By the edicts of the First Veil, this human must face trial. Xenocontact statutes demand it. His presence profanes the throne's sanctity. Velira's mandibles clicked once, a restrained thunder amid the swelling clamor. From her elevated throne she surveyed the High Council. Conservatives echoing Hyrax's cry, their scales rippling in synchronized outrage. Moderates shifting uneasily, murmuring of integration protocols and alliance pacts. The fracture widened. One measured step at a time, and she felt its pull in her core, the weight of precedent against the pragmatism her reign demanded. Daniel Reed stood silent at her flank, his posture unyielding yet deferential, eyes scanning the assembly with that unnerving human calm. "Consul," she intoned, her voice a silken command that quelled the din. "The edicts serve the sovereignty, not blind tradition. The human saved my life amid the Cascade breach. Trial him now, and we invite the outer fractals to question our resolve." Hyrax's gaze flicked to Reed. Venomous. Resolve or dilution? He wields tools of shadowed craft, alien code in our halls. "Purge the anomaly, Sovereign, before it metastasizes," a moderate counselor Lyrith interjected, her spines half lowered in caution. "Safeguards, then. Bind him to oath monitors. Limit his access. Integration without rupture." Velira's primary eyes narrowed. The council teetered, loyalty fraying like old webbing. Reed leaned fractionally closer, his whisper for her alone. "Your Majesty, if I may examine the latest dispatches, there's a pattern in the encryption echoes." She hesitated, protocol warring with instinct. Grant him this, and Hyrax's faction would howl sacrilege. Deny, and shadows might deepen unchecked. "Proceed," she murmured, gesturing to the Nexus orb at her side. Screens flickered to life as Reed's fingers danced across the interface. Human hands, blunt and tireless, interfacing with Ilithian glyphs as if born to them. The chamber hushed as data streams cascaded. Reed's brow furrowed, not in strain but focus, murmuring to himself. Layered ciphers, redundant keys masking sender hashes, their cross-reference with sentinel logs. His voice stayed even, multitasking the decryption while noting counselors' micro-expressions as if juggling fractals in his mind. Velira watched, intrigued despite herself. Her cryptors took cycles for such unraveling, yet he pierced it in breaths. "The dispatch," Reed said clearly, projecting the decrypted core for all. "From Sub-Archon Trellis, coordinating with Outer Fleet dissidents. Secure the suitor's claim. Displace the foreign taint. Compromised offices. Hyrax's auxiliary staff, and 3 sentinel rotations." Gasps rippled. Hyrax surged forward, crest ablaze. "Fabrication, human deceit." "Verify the hash," Reed countered mildly, yielding the orb. "Your own protocols will confirm." Velira signaled her verifiers. Moments later, affirmations chimed. The consul deflated, mandibles grinding, but his eyes burned with calculation. "Security reorganization," Reed proposed seamlessly, his tone professional, devoid of triumph. "Pinpoint compromised nodes. Reassign sentinels from those rotations. Audit auxiliary logs cross-domain. Humans call it compartmentalization. Isolate risks without broad purge." The idea hung. Novel in its precision, Ilithian doctrine favored sweeping cleanses. This was surgical, adaptive. Lyrith nodded slowly. Feasible. Minimizes disruption. Immediate purge would fracture further, breed martyrs. A probe. Covert, targeted, honored order while bending to necessity. "No purges," she decreed, her voice steel-clad. "Initiate a shadow audit. Sentinel Prime, rekey access for select investigators. Report solely to me." Murmurs of approval from moderates. Conservatives seethed, but obeyed. Hyrax bowed stiffly, retreating to his dais. Velira turned to Reed, her secondary eyes appraising him anew. Competence over rank. This human embodied it. Humbly, without demand. "You have earned provisional trust. Palace passkey." She extended her claw. A sentinel etched the glyph into a sliver of crystal, which she pressed into his palm. "And the 3rd sentinel unit, reassign under your coordination. Prove the proposal." Reed accepted with a nod, no flourish. "I'll ensure minimal footprint, Your Majesty. Their strengths with our methods." As the council dispersed, Velira felt the propriety of her court crack, just a hairline fracture admitting light. Duty compelled this alliance, His deeds made it viable. That eve, in the private sanctum adjoining her chambers, a vaulted node for intimate counsel, she convened a paired council, herself, Lirith, Sentinel Prime Korath, and Reed. Goblets of nectar essence steamed on the low table, protocol relaxed to foster candor. Valira savored the subtle burn, her senses attuned to undercurrents. Progress on the audit, she queried. Korath's spines bristled. 2 auxiliary staff implicated. Trellis's web runs deeper. Ties to Lord Varak, the rival suitor from the Outer Rims. Varak, ambitious, pedigreed, Hyrax, shadowed patron. Valira's mandibles tightened. He courted her throne through marriage claims, ancient bloodlines his lever. Reed interjected quietly, passkey glinting at his belt. 3rd units repositioned. Perimeter sweeps show anomalous residue, trace chem signals, non-standard. Lirith leaned in. Poison markers? Before response, a servant glided forward with the nectar refill. Valira raised her goblet and froze. A faint iridescence shimmered in the liquid, alien to Elythian brews. Her physiology screamed warning. Neurotoxin, keyed to royal venom glands. Down, Reed barked, lunging. His hand clamped her wrist, goblet shattering against stone. He shoved her back as convulsions hit the servant, who crumpled, foaming. Chaos erupted. Korath sealed the doors. Lirith triggered alarms. Valira's hearts thundered, but she rose composed, claw drawing her ceremonial blade. Trace it. Reed knelt by the servant. Multitasking vitals check with chem scanner from his kit. Human improvisation, scanning while isolating samples. Pulse thready, but stabilize. Toxin vector, dermal transfer via handler. Your nectar was clean, the pourer's glove laced. Korath growled. Agents? Varak's sigil on the glove weave. Reed confirmed, holding up the filament under light. 3rd unit logs a ghost entry, bribed sentinel. Valira's rage coiled, regal and precise. Varak's gambit, assassinate her mid-council. Frame the human, ignite xenophobic purge. The throne teetered closer to abyss. Summon Hyrax and Varak, she commanded. Strip the suitor's privileges. Confine his retinue, no trials. Exile pending proof. Korath bowed. And the human? She met Reed's gaze, his face streaked with servant's froth, yet steady. He'd acted without hesitation, reading peril in a shimmer her court missed. Operational competence, yes, but more. Resilience, reading subtext across species chasms. Aliens like her cleaved to protocol. He bridged crises with raw ingenuity. Daniel Reed, she announced as the council reconvened in emergency session. Hyrax and Varak dragged before her dais, the latter's crest limp in shock. You are appointed temporary security advisor. Full palace access. 3rd unit reports to you. The poison trail demands it. Hyrax exploded. Sacrilege. A soft-skinned outsider guarding the sovereign? Soft-skinned? Reed replied evenly. No defensiveness. Saved her from it tonight. Your patron's glove print doesn't lie. Varric snarled. Lies. Fabricated. Exile. Valera cut in. Final. Your claims forfeit. Hyrax, leash your allies or join him. Backlash roared. Conservatives baying, moderates stunned. But Lirath voiced support. Korath saluted Reed crisply. Valira held firm, strength unyielding, even as propriety splintered further. This human, unassuming paramedic by his tales, unraveled conspiracies her cryptors chased in vain. Humble, yet his pattern sight connected dots across domains. Logs, chemtraces, politics, like breathing. In the quiet aftermath, as sentinels hauled Varak away, Reed approached her throne. I'll coordinate with Korath's leads. Their terrain knowledge, my sweeps. Combined, we seal the gaps. She nodded, a rare warmth threading her voice. You adapt swiftly, advisor. Teach Korath your compartmentalization. We learn together. His faint smile held no arrogance, only partnership. For the first time, Valira glimpsed mutual elevation. Her empire's order, his crisis ingenuity. Faction plots surfaced raw. The poison trail bound her fate to his guard. Consul Hyrax's crest flared crimson as he thrust the holographic dispatch before the High Council. The Cathari coalition has sealed our borders, Your Majesty. No vessels in or out, and worse, they've anointed Lord Draven as legitimate heir, pledging fleets if you persist with this. Human consort. Succession law demands purity of blood. The empire fractures under alien taint. Valira's throne hummed faintly beneath her, its neural links pulsing with the weight of intercepted signals. The chamber's vaulted arches loomed, etched with ancestors' victories now mocking her isolation. She met Hyrax's gaze, her mandibles clicking once in measured restraint. Fractures form where loyalty wavers, Consul. Draven's promise is rebellion cloaked as reform. Our relays lie crippled. Sabotage, not embargo. Chokes our voice to the outer houses. Without them, allies drift to his banner. Murmurs rippled through the counselors, their iridescent scales shifting in unease. Hyrax leaned forward, voice a silken blade. Precedent bars foreigners from imperial infrastructure. Dispatch our engineers. Restore order through Ilithian hands alone. Her decision crystallized, born of Reed's prior feats. The poison neutralized by his cryptic scans, supply chains jury-rigged in hours. No. Daniel Reed leads the repair. His crew, mixed Ilithian specialists under his command, dispatch them now. Hyrax recoiled, spines bristling. Majesty, this defies the Codex. Defiance is survival. Valira snapped, propriety thinning like frost under sun. The human has proven his thread in our weave. Execute the order. Hours later, Valira's command nexus thrummed with live feeds from the relay outpost, a jagged spire orbiting the gas giant Epsilon drift. Reed moved amid the wreckage like a shadow in stormlight, his human frame unbowed by zero harnesses that chafed Ilithian hides. Sparks flew from severed conduits. The sabotage was surgical. Cores melted, quantum buffers fried. Team Alpha, reroute power from auxiliary thrusters. Reed directed calmly over comms, voice steady as he juggled a diagnostic slate, welder and improvised clamp fashioned from whole scrap. Beta. Isolate the echo loop. It's feedback from the coalition jammer. Caliph, your species' thermal sense. Mark the hot nodes I can't see. Caliph, the Ilithian coordinator hesitated, her frills quivering, humans fatigued after shifts. This one had worked through 2 cycles without pause. But the buffers require precision lattice weave. No human tool. Reed grinned faintly, already splicing a salvaged medpack filament into the grid. Lattice is rigid. We'll braid it flexible. Your weave plus my patch. Watch. His hands blurred. Pattern recognition linking paramedic sutures to circuit flows, creativity birthing a hybrid fix. The relay hummed alive. First 1, then cascading to 3 more. Supply drones uncloaked from shadow. Comms bloomed to allied houses. The Lyra watched, her primary hearts quickening. Caliph's report crackled. Impossible. He multitasked 3 failure trees at once, adapted our protocols mid-flow. We Ilithians drill for years on rote paths. He invents. Hyrax intruded on the feed. A temporary gain, Majesty. The Council moves for impeachment. Foreign command endangers us all. She muted him, summoning Reed's channel. Your repairs hold our lifeline. Cosign these communiques to Houses Vor and Thalix. Affirm our alliances, with your name beside mine. A pause, then his voice humble surprise threading it. Honored, Your Majesty, but only if it serves the chain. The documents sealed, broadcasts winged out, the Lyra's seal entwined with Daniel Reed, Imperial Liaison. Protocol cracked further. Whispers of Precedent's death spread. Alarms shattered the calm. The feed erupted. Assassin drones swarmed the outpost. Coalition marked but laced with Hyrax cipher signatures, her analysts confirmed. Bombardment lanced, plasma volleys shredding habitats, shrapnel storms. Reed's voice cut sharp. Evac protocols. Caliph. Seal bulkheads. Patterns a pincer. Drones from ventral arc. Borders starboard. Alpha. Counterfire. On my mark. Multitask. Med stations active. Valira surged from her throne, mandibles locked. My shuttle, now, to the drift. Protocol be damned. Her presence would steel spines, claim the narrative. The shuttle pierced the fray, escorts blazing. Docking clamps engaged amid shuddering blasts. Valera strode into chaos, her honor guard fanning out, pulse rifle humming. Smoke choked the corridors. Ilithians dragged wounded, scales gashed. Reed crouched over Caliph, pinned under debris, her leg mangled. Hold steady. Pressure here. He hefted a beam alone, endurance defying gravity's pull, then hefted her fireman's carry, human shoulders broad, unyielding. A drone breached, barrage stitching the deck. Reed twisted, shielding Calith, rounds grazing his suit. Velira lunged, her frame slamming into him, royal carapace absorbing the next volley. Heat seared her flank, but she fired true, drone erupting in slag. They tumbled into cover, Reed easing Calith down. His eyes met Velira's, shock, then nod. "You didn't have to. Imperial prerogative," she rasped, mandibles brushing his shoulder in unscripted contact. Pain lanced, but strength held. "You saved our voice." I shield mine. Reed coordinated the breach clear. "Flank left. Your thermal locks their vents." "I'll draw." Humans' pack instinct wove with Alithian precision. Drones fell. Borders routed. Calith stabilized. Evac shuttles away. Back in Throne Nexus, feeds broadcast the victory. Reed's crew intact. Relays secure. Hyrax stormed the chamber, crest ablaze. "Impeachment!" A queen who bleeds for a human succession demands her abdication. Counselor shifted, eyes on Velira's singed armor. Reed at her flank, wounded but erect, humble grin flashing. She rose, voice thunder, dismissed. "The poison traces to your aids, Consul. Plots unravel." Hyrax paled, spines drooping. Velira activated the Imperial broadcast, her image filling every Alithian holoscreen. Reed visible at her side. "By decree, all human personnel under full sovereignty protection. Daniel Reed is no consort of ceremony. He is partner in our endurance. The Coalition tests us. We answer unbroken. Draven's claim dies in shadow. Loyalty to the chain that holds." Cheers echoed from outer houses, alliances reaffirmed. Hyrax slunk away, faction fracturing. In the quiet aftermath, Velira turned to Reed, formality yielding to fracture's warmth. "Your hand mended more than relays. What drives such normalcy in crisis?" He shrugged, wiping bloodied hands. "Just work, Majesty. We humans keep going. Together's better." Calith's report followed. "He bonded us mid-fire. Read our hesitations, turned fear to rhythm. Ilithians endure alone. He made us pack." Velira's crest softened, glimpsing the galaxy's shift. Her order, his ingenuity, entwined. The embargo bit, but supply lines flowed. Draven's fleets hesitated. Partnership elevated, not supplanted. Yet Hyrax's shadow lingered. Next move his, poison's root deeper. Her guard now included a human's quiet vigilance. Explosions ripped through the orbital perimeter, the palace shuddering as Velira's throne room alarms wailed in jagged harmony. She surged to her feet, claws flexing against the armrests of her seat, eyes locked on the holographic display blooming crimson with incoming trajectories. "Claimant Zorath's armada, demanding my abdication or bombardment of the core worlds. They name Reed, the blight upon our bloodline." Daniel Reed was already moving, his human frame a blur beside her dais, fingers dancing across a jury-rigged console he'd spliced into the palace's defense grid hours earlier. "Shields holding at 60%, Your Majesty. I've rerouted auxiliary power to the anti-orbital batteries, buying us 10 minutes. Evacuate non-essentials. I'll hold the command nexus." His voice cut steady through the chaos, no trace of the fatigue that had gnawed at Iolithian officers through the night's drills. Velira noted it absently. Humans endured as if pain were a mere suggestion. Yet her focus sharpened on the fleet icon swarming like venom flies. "Consul Hyrax," she snapped into the comms link, her voice a blade of imperial frost. "Report from the High Tribunal chamber." Distant. Silence, then a burst of static laced with distant shouts. The betrayal crystallized. Hyrax's whispers had festered into this steel storm. No time for rage. She keyed the general alert. "All loyal forces, this is Sovereign Velira. Defend the throne." No surrender. Reed glanced up, his eyes meeting hers with that unflinching calm. "Permission to lead the counter-boarders? We've got drop pods prepped. Strike their boarding parties mid-transit, then pivot to the flagship." He was multitasking seamlessly, plotting trajectories on one screen, patching shield fluctuations on another, even signaling palace engineers via subvocal implants she'd seen him improvise from scavenged parts. Ilithians marveled at such division of self. To him, it seemed as natural as breathing. "Granted," she said, mandibles clicking in reluctant approval, "but return intact. The sovereignty requires its anomalies." He nodded once, vanishing into the corridor with a squad of her elite guard, their iridescent carapaces clashing against his plain tunic. Valira watched the feeds, drop pods lancing into the void, Reed at the fore, barking coordinates as they intercepted the first wave of coup shuttles. Explosions bloomed silent in the black, his team breaching hulls, turning invaders' momentum against them. In the throne room's heart, she paced, summoning the High Tribunal via secure channels. Holograms flickered to life. Loyalists pale-clawed and trembling, hardliners like Hyrax's ally, Subconsul Lyrak, mandibles agape in feigned shock. Sovereign, Lyrak intoned, voice oily with protocol. The ancient edict demands exile of foreign consorts in times of claimant assault. Renounce the human. Preserve the line. Valira's crest flared, a ripple of indigo fury across her scales. Exile? And hand Zorath the throne on a platter of precedent? No. Reed fights for us now. His loyalty has teeth. She refused to yield the right even as the palace groaned under fresh salvos. Screens showed Reed's impossible cascade, his pod docking with a coup vessel, his team repelling borders with improvised plasma vents, human creativity twisting enemy weapons into traps. Then, the pivot, boarding the flagship itself, Reed slipping through vents like a shadow, disabling the command core with a cascade of overrides no Illithian codebreaker had conceived. Amazement rippled through the tribunal holograms. Patterns their encryption from battle chatter alone, murmured Admiral Kethra, her veteran eyes widening. Our slicers train cycles for such feats. Valira felt a flicker of it herself, this human, piecing alien logic like scattered mosaic tiles. His resilience holding as carapace armored foes swarmed. The flagship listed, engines guttering. Zorath's fleet faltered, reverse thrusting in disarray as counterfire from palace batteries, guided by Reed's remote tweaks, shredded their flanks. The assault crumbled in minutes, vessels limping to retreat vectors. Valira straightened, her voice booming across open channels. Claimant Zorath, your bid fails. Recall your dogs or face annihilation. Silence, then compliance. Hyrax's gambit exposed, his absence damning. But the tribunal chamber erupted in hollow static as Reed's team docked back at the palace, hauling captured officers. Lyrak's hologram surged forward. Treason. This off-worlder commandeers our vessels without sanction. Arrest him under Clause 47. Hardliner guards materialized in the physical chamber below, pikes humming toward the docking bay where Reed emerged, bloodied but unbowed, directing medics to the wounded. Valira's claw slammed the dais override. Imperial Guard, to me. Her personal phalanx materialized in a thunder of boots, cerulean armor gleaming as they formed a living wall before Reed. Any who touch him touch the sovereign. The hardliners froze, pikes dipping. Lyrak's hologram sputtered outrage, but Kethra's forces flooded in. Loyal blades outnumbering dissent. In the charged hush, Valira descended to the bay, Reed turning to her with a weary nod, endurance etched in his uncomplaining stance. Even as Illithian guards slumped from exhaustion, she extended her claw palm up, the imperial sigil pulsing in her grasp, a crystalline orb etched with the sovereignty's unbroken chain. Daniel Reed, you have proven more than consort. Take this. As co-signatory to an emergency charter, wartime command shares parity. Sign, and we stand equal. His fingers closed around it, human warmth against Illithian chill, eyes widening fractionally, not in arrogance, but quiet resolve.
Honor to serve beside you, Your Majesty.
Let's end this rot. He pressed his print to the orb. It flared gold, broadcasting the decree galaxy-wide. Gasps echoed. Never had a queen offered such fracturing millennia of solitary rule. The High Tribunal reconvened amid the wreckage, holograms awash in the glow of victory feeds. Lyrak protested, mandibles slashing air, but Kethra rose. The human reversed the coup where our fleets faltered, his patterns his unyielding drive. We researched human annals mid-battle. They call it normal. Yet it saved us. Murmurs built to assent, even neutrals nodded, crests shifting from doubt to dawning respect. The charter passed, endorsed by majority claw. Valira faced Reed before the assembly, her voice resonant. By this sigil, I proclaim you equal in title and duty, warden of the chain, co-ruler in crisis. Succession bends, no longer lone blood, but proven alliance. He inclined his head, not bowing, their gazes locking in shared understanding. Pyrax's network would fracture now, his poisons diluted by this bond. As the tribunal dispersed, Kethra lingered, her voice low. Sovereign, we dismissed humans as fleeting softskins. This one connects what we silo. Teach us your ways? Reed smiled faintly, offering a hand. Pack bonding across chitin and flesh. The Lyra watched, a warmth cracking her regal shell. She had been born to rule alone, wielding divine might. Yet in crisis, she learned true power.